Today we're going to be talking all about Sonlight's History Bible Literature Level E, which is the second year of Intro to American History. I'm going to be sharing about all of the books that we are reading in the first 6 weeks of this program and what we're thinking about it so far. Hi everyone, welcome to our homeschool table. My name is Jerilyn. I am a mom of 3 kids, ages 10, 3, and 1. This is our 6th year homeschooling. We are really enjoying the History Bible Literature Level E program so far. If you are looking for a video to just show all of the books and resources that are in the Sonlight Level E program, I will link that up here. And in that video, I just shared about all of the resources that come in the package and kind of how we are going to use them. So for today, I'm going to be sharing all about the books that we have read for the first 6 weeks of the program so far. And I'm going to start with the Bible section, then go to history and geography, and then last, the read alouds and the readers that my daughter is reading. I will go ahead and leave some timestamps down below in the description box if you want to jump to specific parts of the video. Okay, so the first book in the Bible section is Starting Strong, and this is actually 3 books in one, and just the first section is what you are doing in the first 6 weeks. So this is a devotional style book where you read a couple pages, and then there are questions for you to answer, and you can have your child write straight in this book. I chose to just use these as discussion questions instead, and we really liked doing it that way. And then I just figured that my 2 little kids, when I get to this program later on in the next few years, we will be able to use this book again. So it's just a couple of pages per chapter, and we really liked these. The devotionals in this book went right along with the Bible reading that they schedule for the student. So in the History Bible Literature Level E program is where they start having your student do their own student reading in the Bible, and then there's also a parent reading scheduled as well. So the way that we do that in our homeschool is that my daughter has a checklist that she uses for the week, and I have a section on her checklist for her personal Bible time. And so I put her student Bible reading passage on that line so that when she's doing her independent work in the mornings, she can do her personal Bible reading on her own. Then later on, when we meet for our Bible time at the table, then she tells me about what she's read that day, and we do the parent reading for the day. This book, Starting Strong, is scheduled kind of throughout the week, so you can do it split up however you would like. You can read the devotional on the first day, then read the passage, and then start working on the questions. Or if you're like us, we like to do the devotional on the first day of the week and work through all of the questions, and then we are done with this book for the week. This is the next book that is in the Bible section of our weekly readings. And we are working on the first section of this book called Case for a Creator for Kids. And this answers lots of questions about the Big Bang Theory and very intricate details of the universe and how it could have been created. It helps to think about some questions like, is the Big Bang Theory true? Are your science teachers wrong? And did God create the universe? And so there are just some very good discussion questions in here. So another part of the Bible time is memorization. And in the first 6 weeks, we were working on Psalm 103, and it actually goes for 8 weeks total. So I created this little memorization book where I typed out all of the passages that my daughter would need to work on. So this is week 3. Every week it builds for Psalm 103. And then by week 8, she has worked on memorizing the whole chapter of Psalm 103. I am really glad that I made this little booklet. This is not something that comes with Sonlight, but I just made it on my own from their materials. And last in the Bible section is the Heavens Declare, and this is a Sing the Word CD. There's a different CD for every level of History Bible Literature in Sonlight's programs, and this goes directly with the memory verses that you are working on. So we have actually still only listened to the very first song because we are working on the same passage for all 8 weeks total. So this has been going really well. When you purchase this program from Sonlight, you get the audio download as well. And so I went ahead and downloaded the audio onto my phone. And so we listened to this CD on my phone instead of actually putting it in the CD player. But it's really nice to have this as well. So the next section in the instructor's guide is history and geography. So we started out in the first 2 weeks, we were working on this book called One Voice, The Story of William Wilberforce. And this is a very interesting read. At first, when we first started, we really had to get used to it. It is written in poems, and these are poems that William Wilberforce either wrote or he wrote to somebody else, or somebody else wrote them about him. So every page is a poem. It's all poetry. And this was kind of an interesting book to get used to at first. My daughter was not a fan. She did not like it. But what we realized later, after we moved past this book and into some of the other history materials, is that we were making lots of connections to things that we were reading in other books because of this book. So that was kind of cool to see. So this book goes through William Wilberforce's life. It starts out in his childhood and adolescence and about his family. And he did not grow up in a Christian home. And so it talked about just his experiences with that. But then he did become a Christian and became involved in politics and eventually in abolishing slavery. So this was a very interesting book that we kind of started out not really liking, but then by the end we did like it, and we're glad that we kept on reading. The next book that we really have been enjoying is the Smithsonian American History, a Visual Encyclopedia. And this is a very picture-heavy book that contains a lot of information about the same time period and things that we are reading in our other history book that I'll show in a minute. But this is really nice because it often has little snips of vocabulary or just little things that were going on in society at that time that you wouldn't necessarily read in a regular history book. So this is a really great book that we have been enjoying, and you normally read about 1 or 2 pages per day, which I find is the perfect amount. It's not too much and it's not too little. And a lot of times my daughter asks if we can just do 1 more page. So sometimes we do and sometimes we don't, depending on what other readings we have. But we do really like that they included this book. The next book we have for the history section is The Landmark History of the American People, and this is volume 2, From Charleston to the Moon. The first volume of this book is used in the Level D program, which is the first year of Introduction to American History. This book picks up during slavery times in American history, and it has a lot of great pictures and captions of things that were happening in the time period. I also really like that it has maps so that we can really see what is happening and where things are happening at. So these chapters are a few pages, usually, 4 to 6 pages per chapter. And we usually do a couple chapters per week. In weeks 1 through 6, we did chapters 1 through 11. At the beginning of the Landmark History Volume 2, we started in slavery and then in the Civil War. And then we wound up talking about oil and oil production and things like that. So This book had some very interesting topics that they were talking about, though. Things like the clothing production and sewing machines and how that got all started, and just the manufacturing that went on. Then it talked a lot about the different things that were being invented, and different inventors and things that they had made that were kind of changing the way that America was doing things. So in the instructor's guide, on each of the days for history and geography, and even for the readers and read alouds, there are little icons that you will see that tell you when there's a timeline figure like this, or a mapping point that you would want to talk about with your student. So the way that we do this is that I actually do all of the geography and timeline figures on Thursdays. So basically what we do on Thursdays, after we're done with the history readings, then I go through that whole week and we talk about the map points. So this is actually 5 maps. So map 1 right here is the United States. Maps 2 and 3 are also the United States, but they are a little bit closer up shots of that section of the map. And then map 4 is a world map, and map 5 is a European map. And when they refer to the European map is mostly when they're talking about immigrants and where they've come from and where they're going in the United States. So we look all the map points up for the week on Thursday, and then we go to our timeline figures. Now, the timeline figures come on a sheet of sticker paper, and there were 3 or 4 sheets of stickers that I pre-cut, and I'm so glad I did. I did not do this in past levels that we've done, and I am so glad that I went ahead and not only cut them apart, but I labeled on the back what week they go with, so that I can easily just pull them out. So I made little envelopes. I have weeks 1 through 12 here, and then in my binder pocket I have weeks 13 through 24, and then 25 through 36. So I've been very happy that I made this easy on myself this year, and we actually have been doing it and putting them into the timeline book. So that is going really well. So this is the timeline book that we use, and when you order your very first Sonlight package, that's when you want to order your timeline book. And then after that, it is a required resource, but you don't have to rebuy it every time. You just keep using the same timeline book throughout all of your History Bible Literature programs. So we started out here with Abraham Lincoln and Harriet Tubman. Then we have Elias Howe and the California Gold Rush. This last week we added the Pony Express and the Civil War. We talked about the Homestead Act, cattle drives from Texas to Wyoming, the Emancipation Proclamation, the Ku Klux Klan, and then Reconstruction. One more part of the history geography section is a digital download that you get when you purchase the curriculum from Sonlight. It is a CD called Songs About America. And in the first 6 weeks, we did the following songs. So we did a Native American welcome song called the Chumash Welcome Song. There was a sea shanty, Paul Revere's speech along with Yankee Doodle. 1 week we learned the Star Spangled Banner, and the next week after that we practiced reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. And then we also had a paddle wheeler song. So those have been all really fun, and my kids like to kind of dance around the dining room while we listen to those. And the first song, the Native American welcome song, has been a total favorite, and they ask for it almost every time that we listen to the songs. So these are the first 2 books that are scheduled as read alouds in Level E. The first one is The Great Turkey Walk by Kathleen Carr, and we actually read this book last year, and so we didn't read it again, but we did finish up another read aloud that we were working on that we started in the summer. So we did read this book, just not in the actual time period that it was scheduled in the teacher's guide. So this was a really good book. This is about a young man who took 1,000 turkeys from Missouri to Denver, Colorado, and just all of the things that happened to him and the people that he was traveling with along the way. And we really liked this book. The only thing is that I remember at the end, my daughter really wanted to know what happened next. She thought that there should either be a few more chapters or that they should have done another book to explain what they did when they got there. The next book that we did as a read aloud was Across 5 Aprils by Irene Hunt. And my daughter really enjoyed this book. She actually listened to this on audio kind of on her own. So I was not a part of reading this book particularly aloud to her, but she really enjoyed it. Another book that is scheduled as a read aloud is How to Eat a Poem. And this has some very humorous poems and just kind of some silly poetry. You read 2 poems a week, one on the second day and one on the 4th day. And the way that we do this in our homeschool is that we usually read both of them on the second day. And mainly that is because we read other poetry throughout the week. And so we wanted to kind of consolidate them onto one day. But we really enjoy these. And then the last aspect of the History Bible Literature program are the readers set. And these are the Level E readers. And these are the first 3 books that my daughter read for the first 6 weeks. So the first one was By the Great Horn Spoon by Sid Fleischman. And I read this book before my daughter did, and I really thought this was a great book. This is all about the California Gold Rush. So the 2 main characters take a boat all the way down through the southern part of South America to make their way up to California. And then once they get there, it's all about the adventures that they have in finding gold. And so this was just a really enjoyable book, and my daughter really liked it as well. So the second book is Freedom Train, the story of Harriet Tubman. And this is a great story about Harriet's life from when she was a little girl living on a plantation, and just all of the things that happened to her. I read this book before my daughter did, and honestly had some tears from time to time. It was a very moving book, and my daughter enjoyed it as well. This is the third book, Turn Homeward, Hannah Lee by Patricia Beatty, and this book is set in the Civil War time period, and my daughter really enjoyed this book. And so those are all of the books and materials that we used in the first 6 weeks of our History Bible Literature Level E program. Let me know down below if you have used this level. I have noticed that here on YouTube, the later levels of Sonlight are very hard to find information about. So I hope this was helpful for anybody that is considering using this program, or if you're just trying to find out if this program would be a good fit for you and your family. I highly recommend all of the Sonlight levels that we have used so far. One of the things that I really like about the Sonlight program is that even though you're reading several books kind of at the same time, it breaks it up into small enough segments that it is doable. If you are the type of family that enjoys kind of having a morning time style homeschool. So the way that we schedule in all of these things, we actually do them in different sections. So when we start our morning, my daughter has already done all of her independent work first thing in the morning. And then when we come to the table around 8:30 or 9, we start with the Bible section of our History Bible Literature program. And then after we have finished Bible time, we do some singing with hymns and other songs that we're working on in the program. And then we will have some snack or take a little break. And then when we come back, we work on the history and geography section. Oftentimes we do read aloud right after that. Sometimes we wait until later. And then my daughter works on the readers later in the afternoon when we have our quiet time. I have 2 little kids, like I said. They are 3 and 1, so they still take naps every day. And so my daughter, along with a few other things, she works on the readers during that time of day. So we kind of break it up throughout the day, and it seems pretty manageable for us. I always order the 5-day program, and we oftentimes try to kind of condense it down into 4 days because we don't do a lot of school on Fridays. But if we need to, we can definitely kind of carry over onto a Friday. The read alouds are something that my daughter wants to go a little bit faster in, and I, of course, do not read fast enough for her liking. And sometimes she will ask for me to read some chapters on the weekend, which, depending on the day, I don't really mind doing. But we really do try to kind of stay on track mostly with this. And my goal is to get mostly done by the end of the school year, and then anything that we have that's kind of left over with read alouds or anything like that, we will just kind of finish a little bit throughout the summer until we start our next level. If you have any questions or comments about any of the books, please go ahead and let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so that you know when I post a new video. I am planning on doing some more update videos about Sonlight Level E specifically, and I will probably do them in chunks of 6 weeks. So when we finish week 12, then you can expect another video about how weeks 7 through 12 went. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today at our homeschool table, and I'll see you next time.